The old farmhouse on Maplewood Lane stood quietly against the backdrop of a late autumn evening in Ohio. The trees had already shed most of their leaves, leaving the branches bare and trembling in the wind. Inside the house, Sarah Miller sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had long gone cold. The house was too big for one person now. Too quiet. Once it had been filled with laughter, footsteps pounding up the stairs, doors slamming, and the chaos that came with raising children. But those days had faded, leaving only silence, the hum of the refrigerator, and the memories that clung stubbornly to every corner of the house. Her son, Daniel, had been gone for 8 years. The last time she saw him, he was standing at the doorway with a duffel bag slung over his shoulder. His jaw had been set, his eyes blazing with frustration, as they argued one last time before he left. "I can't stay here, Mom," he had said. "I need to figure out my own life. You don't understand me, and I can't breathe in this house anymore." Sarah's heart had cracked that day. She had begged him to stay, but his mind was made up. He left for the city, chasing dreams she didn't fully understand, and the distance between them grew wider with each passing year. Calls became rare, visits non-existent. At first, she told herself he needed space, but as the years slipped by, she wondered if he was ever coming back at all. The seasons changed, the house aged, and Sarah kept waiting. On holidays, she set an extra plate at the table, just in case. At Christmas, she decorated the tree with ornaments from his childhood, remembering the way his little hands used to hang them clumsily. On his birthday, she baked his favorite chocolate cake, even though she was the only one there to eat it. Her husband, Michael, had passed away 5 years earlier. He was the glue that held the family together, and without him, the cracks grew wider. He had always believed Daniel would come back one day. "He's stubborn, just like you," Michael used to say with a chuckle. "But he loves you. He'll find his way home." Sarah clung to that hope, even when it hurt. On that chilly November evening, Sarah sat in the quiet kitchen when she heard a sound she hadn't heard in years: the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway. Her heart skipped. She rose slowly, her legs trembling as she walked to the window. A car sat in the driveway, its headlights cutting through the dusk. She couldn't see who was inside, but something deep in her heart told her she knew. The car door opened, and a tall figure stepped out. Her breath caught. It was him, her son, Daniel. He stood there for a moment, looking at the house as though trying to gather the courage to approach. He had aged since she last saw him. His hair was shorter, his face leaner, his posture heavier, as though he carried years of burdens on his back. But he was still her boy. The same hazel eyes, the same crooked smile that used to light up the room. Sarah's hands shook as she opened the front door. The cold air rushed in, carrying with it the scent of autumn leaves and damp earth. She stepped onto the porch. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice breaking. He looked up. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then he took a step forward. "Hi, Mom." His voice was soft, hesitant, like a child unsure if he was welcome. Tears blurred her vision as she rushed toward him, wrapping her arms around him. For years she had dreamed of this moment, and now that it was real, she clung to him as if he might disappear again. "You came home," she sobbed into his shoulder. Daniel's arms circled her slowly, then tightened. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have come sooner." They stood in the driveway, mother and son, the years of distance melting away in the warmth of their embrace. When she finally pulled back, she cupped his face in her hands, studying every line, every scar of time. "You're here now. That's all that matters." Inside the house, everything felt different. The silence was gone, replaced by the sound of footsteps again, the creak of the floorboards, the echo of voices. Sarah moved quickly to the kitchen, fussing over him, pulling out leftovers, offering coffee. Daniel smiled faintly as he sat at the table, the same table where he once did homework, where he once fought with her about curfews and dreams. "I don't even know where to start," Daniel said, his hands wrapped around the mug she placed in front of him. His voice was heavier than she remembered. "I've been gone so long. Too long." Sarah sat across from him, her eyes searching his face. "Start wherever you want. I just want to hear your voice again." He took a deep breath. "Life wasn't what I thought it would be. I left thinking I was going to make something of myself. I wanted to prove I could do it without anyone's help. But the city chewed me up, Mom. Jobs came and went. Friends came and went. I made mistakes. A lot of them. I was too proud to come back here and admit I had failed." Her heart ached, but she reached across the table, taking his hand. "You didn't fail. You learned. That's what life is. And you'll always have a place here, no matter what. His eyes glistened as he nodded. There were nights I thought about coming home, but I kept telling myself you'd be disappointed. That I had let you down. Sarah squeezed his hand. The only way you could have let me down was by never coming back. And look, you're here. That's all I need. The days that followed were a slow healing. Daniel helped rake the yard, fix the broken fence, and chop wood for the fireplace. At night, they sat together, talking about everything and nothing. He told her stories of the people he met, the struggles he faced, and the lessons he learned. She shared stories of his father, how much he missed him, how proud he would have been to see Daniel return. One evening, they sat in the living room with the fireplace crackling. Daniel stared at the flames, his face thoughtful. I miss so much. Dad's funeral. Holidays. Your birthdays. I can't get those years back. Sarah's eyes filled with tears, but her voice was steady. We can't change the past, but we can make the most of now. That's what your father would want. For the first time in years, Daniel smiled fully, the kind of smile that reached his eyes. I want to stay this time. Not just for a visit. I want to rebuild. Maybe even start working here, help out around the town. I don't want to run anymore. Her heart swelled with joy. Then stay. This will always be your home. Winter came, and with it new traditions. Daniel helped decorate the Christmas tree, hanging the same ornaments he had as a boy. They cooked together, laughed together, and filled the house with warmth again. Slowly, the pain of the past gave way to the hope of the future. One snowy night, Daniel stood on the porch, looking out at the quiet landscape. He turned to his mother, who stood beside him, wrapped in a thick scarf. I should have come home sooner, he said again, his breath misting in the cold air. She smiled softly, slipping her arm through his. Maybe. But maybe this was the right time. The time you were ready. And I was ready to forgive. Sometimes life works that way. Daniel leaned his head against hers. Thank you for not giving up on me. Tears slipped down her cheeks, but this time they were tears of peace. A mother never gives up on her child,